through the 2021 November paper 3. Let's make a start. Question 1, we've been given a scatter plot diagram and it's asking us to point out an outlier. So you can see this point here is an outlier as it does not fit within the flow. So that has the coordinates of 100 and 18, so along the corridor and up the stairs. So the part B is asking us to estimate 370 cars passing the point on the road. So for this, you want to draw a line of best fit. So that would look something like that. And then we're going to read off the point 370, so that would be straight line up from there. And then a line across, which for me reads as 13.8, but the mark scheme allows anything from 12.8 all the way to 14.8. So Alfie says, because there's an outlier, there's no correlation. Is Alfie correct? Now we have drawn a line of best fit, so even though there is an outlier, is Alfie correct? So you can say no. And there is a positive correlation. Moving on to question 2. So we've got Natalie who makes potatoes. They have the weight of potato to cheese to onions in 9 to 2 to 1. We've been told cheese costs this much and she wants to make 6,000 grams of it. So in terms of cheese, it's going to be 2 out of 12 because this totals up to 12 altogether. So 2 out of 12 times 6,000. So that's the total for the cake. So we're figuring out the mass of cheese we need. We need 1,000 grams of cheese. We are told that £2.25 for 175 grams. So we can work out what 1 gram is. Divide each side by 175. And that tells us that 1 gram is going to be 0.012857. And then we can times each side by 1,000 to get it to 1,000 grams. And that becomes £12.86. Question 3, write that as an ordinary number. So we're going to hop the decimal to the right 5 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Write that in standard form. We're going to hop the decimal 1, 2, 3. So it's 1 after the number. So that's 7.0 times 10 to the power of minus 3. And the last one, you can type this into your calculator, hit enter, and you want to write your answer in standard form. So that's going to be 4.730 times 10 to the power of 3. Question 4, so we have got a water tank that's empty and that's being filled. We want to figure out how much longer tank A takes than tank B. So if I split this into A and B, so I know that 8 litres take 100 seconds. I know I need to fill 2,400 litres, so I'm going to times this by 300 to get there, times this by 300, and that becomes 3 times 300, 30,000 seconds, and then I can divide that by 60 because they want the answer to the nearest minute, so that will be 500 minutes for that. Now with this one, we have 2.2 gallons. We can convert that to litres using this conversion here. So if I times 2.2 by 4.54, I'll get 9.988 litres. So now I know that 9.988 litres, according to the question, take 60 seconds, it says per minute. And where I got the 100 seconds from should say this is 60 seconds plus 40 seconds. That gave me the 100 seconds there. And I want to go to 2,400 litres. So we are going to times both sides to get to 2,400 litres, and that gives us 14417.30076 seconds. And divide each side by, well, not each side, but divide the right side by 60 to get it to minutes. That is 240.29 minutes. And now we want to find out how much longer A takes. So that's going to be 500 minus 2, 40.29. And to the nearest minute, that's 260 minutes. Question 5, we've got the first 5 terms of the first 4 terms of the Fibonacci sequence. It's saying the sum of the first 5. So the way a Fibonacci sequence works is, except the first term, the next term is the sum of the previous 2. So for example, this term here is the sum of these 2. This term here is the sum of these 2. So we don't have this one yet, and it wants the 5th one. So this term here is going to be the sum of these 2. So that's going to be 8a. So we've been told the sum of the first 5 terms is equal to 288. So that is going to be a plus 2a plus 3a plus 5a plus 8a is equal to 228. If I add all them together, that's 19a is equal to 2 to 8, and I can figure out A to be 12. Moving on to question 6. So we know probability adds up to 1 altogether. We are told this is 0.2 more than what the pink one is. So if this is x, this is 0.2 plus x. So if we add all them together, so I'll do 0.05 plus 0.15 plus 0.2 plus x is equal to 1. So that is going to be 0.2. That's 0.2 as well. So that's 0.4 plus 2x is equal to 1. And that gives me 2x is equal to 0.6. X is equal to 0.3. So if I just take that out, I should have wrote that below. So that is going to be 0.3. That is going to be 0.3 plus 0.2, which is 0.5. And as the question says, that is 0.2 more than what we wanted. So we have 18 are blue. So 18 represent 0.15. Probability is out of 1. So to go from here to here, we are going to times it by 1. That is 0.15. So we're going to do the same on this side, and that gives us 120. So question 7, we've been given a part of a center of a circle. It's asking us to find out the shaded segment. So if we look at OPR first, so that's the triangle inside, we can find out the area of this triangle using the formula half AB sine C. So that's going to be a half 8 times 8 times sine 90, and that's 32 centimeters squared. And then we have OPQR. So this is a full circle, both the shaded and the unshaded region. So the area of a circle is going to be pi r squared, but this time we only have a sector, so that's going to be 90 over 360, which then becomes, if you type that into your calculator and put the radius as 8, that gives 16 pi. So finally, the region that we're trying to figure out, which is PQR, is going to be 16 pi take away 32, which to all three significant figures is 18.3. So question 8, draw a line that represents y is directly proportional to x. Y is inversely proportional to x. Remember, y is inversely proportional to x looks like this. You can always plot some points down here. So like, for example, when x is 1, y is 1. When x is 2, y is a half. And you can always plot some points and use that to help you if you need. Question 8. So on Monday, we have 12 people who were washing some cars. On Tuesday, 15 people are washing cars. So with this question, where you want to be careful is how many hours did 15 people take? So if 12 people took 5 hours, so one person, so we can divide this by 12. Now this is where people get it wrong. On this side, you're going to times by 12. Now think about it. Is it going to take less time or more time if one person does it? It's going to take more time. So that's 60 hours. And then for 15 people, we are going to times this side by 15. However, we're going to divide this side by 15 because if there's 15 people, it's going to take a lot less time. So that becomes 4 hours. And the assumption here was that they worked at the same rate. Now, if they didn't work at the same rate, it's either going to be either they worked faster on Tuesday or they worked slower on Tuesday. So if we go with the fact that people may have worked faster on Tuesday, it'll then take less time. So how will this affect the time taken? If people worked faster on Tuesday, it would take less time. So coming on to question 10, so hopefully you can see that this is going to be a similar shapes question. As soon as I see one of these questions, I try to draw out 2 shapes. So if I was to draw the 2 shapes here, that would look like we have the bigger one, and that is A, C, and B. And then we have the smaller one, which is D, E, and B. And we've been given some information. So A to D is 9. We are told that D to E is 2, and D to B is 6. So we know that A to B is going to be 9 plus 6, which is going to be 15 for this. This is 2. D to B is 6. It's saying calculate the length of CB. So this is what it's asking us to find. So we can use some scale factors here. So to go from here to here, we are timesing by 2.5. We are going to do the same here. But now to figure out what this missing length is, we can use Pythagoras theorem. So that's going to be 6 squared minus 2 squared is equal to EB squared. And that's 32 is equal to EB squared. And if I square root each side, that means that EB is equal to 5.6568. And if I times that by 2.5, I get my answer, so that this side then becomes 14.14 to 2 decimal places. Question 11. So she's written down the value of x correct to 1 decimal place, so that's 0.1. Can divide that by 2, 0.05. So we're going to add 0.05, and that's going to become 6.45. And take away 0.05, and that's 6.35. So with the next question, now with this one, it is a bit tricky. But if you start off with substituting a value, so they're interested in a and n, we can substitute x in as 1. So if x was 1, we can write this as a. 1 over n is equal to 7. That's if x is 1. So now if I rewrite this equation, I know that 7 is equal to a over n. So I can then rewrite this as ax 6 1 over n is equal to 7x cubed. I can get rid of this 7 because this 7 is a 1 over n. If I expand this left side, I have a 1 over n, x6 over n is equal to a 1 over n, x cubed. I can cancel that and that out. That leaves me with x6 over n is equal to x cubed. Now, what must n be for it to get x cubed? Well, n must be 2. So now that I know what n is, I can put that in here. So a 1 over 2 is equal to 7. So n is 2. And if I square each side, I get a is equal to 49. 13, so we've got a pattern given here. Now this one is a slightly tricky question. So essentially we're going to map out how we go from the bottom to the top. So to go from the bottom to the top, we can go this way, which is a length, and then we can go up, which is a width, and then we can go up again. Actually, what I should focus on first is the x. So if you move in the x-axis, we're going to go across one length, and then we're going to go across another length, and that's a bit too much, so we're going to have to take away a width. So that's going to be 2L minus W is equal to, well, what is the distance from here to here? That's going to be 11 minus 3, which is 8. And now if I look at the y-axis, so the distance from here to here, that's going to be 20 minus 4, which is 16. And to go from here to here, we have a width, we have a length, and we have a length. So that's going to be 2 lengths plus a width is equal to 16. And now we can solve this as a simultaneous equation. If I subtract these two, that's 0. Subtract these two, that is minus 2w. Subtract these two, that is a minus 8. So w here is equal to 4. So now I know what the width is. I can now use that to figure out what the length is, because I can substitute that in here. So that's going to be 2L minus 4 is equal to 8. Add 4 to each side. That's 12. L is equal to 6. So now we know what the length is, and now we also know what the width is. So this coordinate for C is going to be going across by 6 and going up by 4. So if A is 3, 4, and we go across to the right by 6, that's plus 6, so that becomes 9. And then we go up by 4, that's going to become 8. So C is 9, 8. Moving on to question 14. So we have Olivia and Jessica have half as many sweets as Fran and Gary. So Fran and Gary, they have 5 parts altogether. Olivia and Jessica have 10 parts altogether, and we need to represent this all as a ratio. Now the key bit here is Olivia and Jessica have half as many sweets. So at the minute we have Fran and Gray who have 2 to 3, which is 5 parts. And then we have Olivia and Jessica who have 9 to 1, which is 10 parts. Now, the question says Olivia and Jessica have half as many. So if I was to times this by 2, that gives me 10 parts, which is 6 to 4. But if I times this by 2 again, that's 20 parts. And now notice this is double what that is, which agrees with this statement up here. So if I double this again, that's 12 to 8. So my answer can be written as 8 to 12 to 9 to 1. So question 15, it's asking us to estimate the rate at which the water is flowing at the container. T is 12. So T is 12 is right there. I'm going to use the ruler to draw a tangent and make sure both sides are as equal as they can be. Right, so now draw a line through that. Now a little tip I can tell you here, the reason I've drawn the line from into both the axes is because I can read this off as 28, I can read this off as 29, so the rate is going to be the change in y over the change in x, which is going to be 28 over 29. Now you might have gotten this as 29 over 30, but whatever you get, the mark scheme accepts anything in the range of 0.7 to 1.1. Question 16, we have a curve and we have a line, and it's saying that they have 1 point in common. So if they both intersect, we can make them equal to each other. So if I rewrite line L as y is equal to 5x minus 4, so I've just rearranged that. Now I can make this equation and this equation equal to each other, so I can write that 5x minus 4 is equal to x squared plus 3x minus 3. I can move minus 5x from here, minus 5x from here, and that ends up with x squared minus 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. If I factorize that, we are left with x minus 1 and x minus 1. So we only end up with one root. So now it does say show algebraically. And since it's a show question, we normally want to leave a statement, so we can write that only 1 root of x. So only one set of coordinates. Question 17, we have x is directly proportional to the square of y. So if I write that out, x is directly proportional, so the constant of proportionality, y squared, y is directly proportional to the cube. I'll use a different constant, so I'll use c, z cubed. Well, actually, I'll use k. What I'll do is k, and I'll write a subscript there. So that's a constant for y, constant for z. Now I can substitute this y into there, so that's going to be k. X is equal to k, x, and that'll be k y squared, and that'll be z to the power of 6, because there's a square on that. So now notice that these are constants, right? So now, in order to figure out what these constants are, we can substitute the values given here. So that's going to be 32 is equal to kx, ky squared, and that's going to be 2 to the power of 6. I'm just going to put a blue box around this because this is a constant. And that then leaves me with, this is a 2 by the way, not a z, no, it's a 2. So that's 32 over 2 to the power of 6 is equal to kx, ky squared, and that essentially becomes a half. So now if I come back to this equation here, because the question said find a formula for x in terms of y, so we have x is equal to a half, which is now the value of the constant z6. Hopefully that wasn't too hard. And finally, moving on to a vectors question. They're asking us to find d to e. We are told, I'm just going to write the ratios on this, is 2 to 3. This is 1 to 4. So if you start off by what the question's asking for is d to e. How do we go from d to e? So to go from d to e, I can go up that way and then down this way. So that's going to be d to b plus b to e. Cool. So what is d to b? Let's start with that. So d to b is 3/5 of whatever O to b is. Well, what is O to b? Well, to go from O to b, I can go up this way and then down this way. So that's going to be a plus b. A plus b. So that's d to b sorted. I can write that here. And then we have b to e. Which is 1/5 of b to c. And again, if I come back up here, so I'm trying to find b to c, and I know that it's going to be 1/5 of this total length. So how do I go from b to c? Well, I can go this way, and then this way, as I have all the vectors for that. So that is going to be 1/5 minus b minus a plus 3b. And I can tidy that up and write it as 1/5 2b minus a. So I can write that here as 1/5 2b minus a. And then that can be written as, well, we can expand that and we'll have to tidy it up. So that's going to be 3/5 b plus 2/5 b. And that's minus a over 5. And if you tidy that up, you'll end up with 2/5 a plus b. So at the start of the year, we have some population stuff. So in 2017, so you can say P 2017 is, so at the start it's 4,000. So for P 2018, it's going to be K times the last year, which is going to be 4,000. And then P 2019 is going to be K times last year, which is this bit here. So K 4,000. So we know what P 2019 is. It's 3610. So we are left with 3610 is equal to K squared 4,000. And we can write that as K is equal to 3610 over 4,000 and square root that. And that gives us our answer as 0.95. So we have a fair coin that's thrown n times. Find an expression in terms of n for the probability he gets at least one head and one tail. Now the probability of a head on, say, one throw is 1/2. Same can be said with tails. Now the probability of 2 heads, so that's on 2 tosses, is 1/2 and then 1/2 again. And now the probability of 3 heads is going to be 1/2. If you toss a coin 3 times, 1/2, 1/2. So hopefully you can notice the pattern here. So if I was to throw it n times, I can write this as 1/2. And I can say the same with tails. I can write that as 1/2. And because it says at least 1, I can write this as 1 minus 1/2 to the power of n minus 1/2 to the power of n. So we have a speed time graph, and we are asked to estimate the area under the graph between 1 and 4 in equal strips. So we can split this area, so that is going to be that one there. Let me just fix this line, in fact. That one there. And that one there. So that is, we can call these A, B, C. So A is going to be half A plus B times I, so that's 4, plus 6 times 1, which is 5. So for B, that's half 6 plus 7.2 times the height, which again is 1, so that's 6.6. And for C, it's a half 7.2 plus 7.8 is 7.5. If I total them up, that's 19.1. And what does the area represent? So the area under the graph is the distance. So show that this can be written in that form there. So one thing you want to spot straight away is that is a cube number, and that is a cube number. So we can write this as 6x cubed all over 3x minus 12 and 3x plus 12. And we're going to use the KCF method. So we're going to keep, change, and flip. So that's going to become 3 bracket x minus 4 all over 2x to the power of 4. Now you can simplify some things here. So for example, this 2 can cancel out and become a 1 because it can be divisible by this 6 here. So that will become a 3 there. Now this x cubed and x to the power of 4 at the bottom can cancel out, so that'll go, and this will become x to the power of 1. So if I rewrite that, that is going to become 3 at the top times 3x minus 4 all over 3x minus 12, 3x plus 12, and this to an x outside. And we can now multiply that out, so that will be 3 times 3, which is 9. 9 times x will be 9x, and 9 times minus 4 is minus 36, over 3x minus 12, 3x plus 12, and still an x outside. I can simplify this further, so I can take a factor of 3 out at the top, so that's going to be 3, bracket 3x minus 12, and now you can hopefully see where I'm going with this, so that's 3x minus 12 here as well, 3x plus 12, and then an x out here, so I can cancel that and that out, so that then leaves me with 3 all over, I'll bring the x to the front, 3x plus 12. Now the question wants it in the form 1 firstly, at the top, and r is an integer, so firstly we don't have a 1 at the top, so now to get the 1 at the top we can factorize this, so that can be written as 3 over x, 3 bracket x plus 4. These two could cancel out, and that now leaves me with 1 over x bracket x plus 4. And moving on to the final question, so prove that AB over BD is equal to AC over DC, so we can use a side rule here. So one thing I do want to point out here before we start is we're going to label that y, and that will label y, well, 180 minus y. Just write that a little bit better. You can test this on your calculator as well, but sine y is equal to sine 180 minus y. So you can type this in your calculator. So for example, if you typed in sine 30, that'll give you a half, and if you typed in sine 180 minus 30, that will also give you a half. So that is a key point here. So if I write out what the question's given here, so they're saying A, B, if I use the sine rule, so that's this side here, so the angle for this side must be that one there, so that's going to be sine y is equal to, so we have BD over the angle for BD is going to be that one there, which is sine x, and I can rewrite that as AB over BD is equal to sine y over sine x. And now if I look at AC, so in fact I'll just move this over to the left there. So if I now look at AC, I can say AC over, so AC will have that angle there opposite it, so that will be sine 180 minus y is equal to DC, which will have x opposite it, so the angle opposite DC is sine x, and I can write that as AC over DC is equal to sine 180 minus y over sine x. Now there's a few things you want to note here. Firstly is what I told you up here. These are both equal. What that means is that this bit at the top here is equal to this bit at the top here, which then means that this whole fraction and this whole fraction are equal to each other. So hopefully you can see where I'm going with this, which then means that if this is equal to this and this is equal to this, that then means AB by DB is equal to AC by DC. Because this, if it helps, I can write this as essentially that sine y. So you can see that both are sine y over sine x effectively, because sine y is equal to sine 180 minus y. So as always, I hope you found this video useful, and I'll catch you in the next one.